How can you be a former atheist when you don't even understand the definition of atheist? If you need to have a lot of faith to be an atheist, then you also need to have a lot of skill to not playing baseball.
So this video is about my conversion from atheism to Christianity. I guess my entire life I always kind of searched for truth, if you will, and I went through different modalities, from born Catholic, raised Catholic, but you don't understand that as a kid. You're just following kind of blindly. It's just a religion. It's not really God. There are some godly people within that religion, but the religion itself does not promote a direct relationship with God and a personal one, which is what he came down here for. I went in, I became a Rosicrucian. I became a Krishna conscious devotee. I was actually preparing to become a monk and move to India. I was agnostic at some point, and then at the end I was just a full-blown staunch atheist. Declared myself a man of reason, a man of logic, but in reality it was just biased against anything that had to do with Jesus, God, or anything that went against my desires, I would say. In 2011, at the age of 34, I quit my job, left my job, and decided I was going to retire. So I sold everything and I went to live in Costa Rica, and that's where I live now. Currently I'm in Miami right now. This is where I'm originally from. So I went to Costa Rica, decided that I was people were kept telling me that I was there to find myself, and I just kept saying, no, I know who I am. I'm just here to enjoy my life. In reality, they were right. I was trying to find myself, but to be more honest, I was just searching for truth. And so I read up on as many different religions as possible, even dabbled in them, tried them out, meditation, everything, but I still felt this void, still felt this longing. And granted, young at 34 years old, I'm 40 now, and I travel a lot. I think in the past couple of years I've probably gotten to maybe 10, 15 countries. There's no fulfillment really in that. Women, not even to mention, I don't remember a lot of faces, let alone names. And so I searched for some kind of fulfillment, and I could never find it. And so finally, it all came to a head at the beginning of last year, where I felt this great depression that I guess I was diagnosed with that when I was in college, clinical depression, and I never really did anything about it because I just thought that I could pull myself out of it, and it never really happened, but I'd had ups and downs and whatnot. And so at the beginning of last year, while I was I was kind of full-blown into the holographic universe theory, the books by Michael Talbot and Stephen, I forgot his name, all those things. I really bought into that because it just made a lot of sense. It honestly really did. But there was just one question that they couldn't answer, and it was the question of suicide. And I kept trying to figure out, like, what happens if you commit suicide. First as a curiosity, and then as a serious, like, existential question. And so I kept searching and searching, and I found no answer in that. And so I just figured that there is no God. I do whatever I want because there are no repercussions. We're just gonna die, or we come back. Either way, it doesn't matter. But there is no hell and there is no heaven because all that's made up. It's made up by people that need to cling on to something greater than themselves. And so they created this. They created a God or the God, so that they'll have something to cling on to because they weren't strong enough to pull themselves out. And so, getting back to 2017, kept researching, and I just had this overwhelming depression. It was amazing, even though my life was, by all accounts, was awesome. Anytime friends asked about my life or talked to other people about my life, they thought it was the greatest thing. Oh, what do you do all day? Video games, get on my motorcycle, go in the motorcycle club in Costa Rica. Sometimes go to a different country in the motorcycle. Travel, women, and anything I wanted to do, I could do. And I had no accountability. I'm responsible for nobody. And so it sounds great. And the best part of that way of living was telling other people about it. It wasn't necessarily living it. And but I still felt this void, this emptiness. So I started researching evolution, flat earth theory, all these other things. And I studied nutrition in college, so I understand a little bit about biology, and so I started reading about Douglas Axe, his book, Undeniable, all these other apologetics. I didn't even know that existed. I just thought that all Christians were dumb. They didn't know what they were talking about, and they were just speaking out of faith. And they had some really compelling arguments that I really couldn't rebuttal. I had no sound rebuttal for it. I just had to stay firm with the belief that there is no God, and that was my only rebuttal, my only argument. And so, in May of last year, I suffered an injury playing volleyball. I snapped my patellar tendon, and I came back to Miami for surgery. Thank God I got the surgery. But during that time, prior to the surgery, as I was preparing for the surgery and seeing if I can actually get it, it's very expensive. I ended up actually getting it for free here. It's amazing. God truly is amazing. I had a lot of time on my hands to think, and I just kept researching, and then it all came to a head one night when through readings and research, and I realized that I had two choices to make. I can continue on my path, or I can take all the evidence that I found, all the research that's been done, all the arguments, the sound arguments that have been made for Christianity, for Jesus, for the scriptures, and follow that, or go with the faith that I had that there is no God. And so I realized that if I am going to call myself a intellectually honest person, then I have to go with the evidence. And so I decided one night, I just went with the evidence, and I broke down. And I don't think I've ever cried like that in my life. I mean, I've had disappointments, I've been cheated on, things like nothing compared, absolutely nothing compared. Even my patellar tendon, my Achilles tendon, snapped that twice, multiple fractures, surgeries, none of that compared to that night. And so I felt this overwhelming remorse for everything I've ever done, for what I've ever said about God, about Christians, about the truth. and I decided I'd just give my life to Jesus. I can go into the direct arguments that I came up with, but I don't want to turn this video into something, well, you can argue it this way or that way. You just have to search for it on your own. If you call yourself intellectually honest, you have to do the research. It's not difficult. It's all out there. It really truly is. And so during that time, it broke down, and I decided that I was going to change my life. So the very next day, I called my girlfriend and I told her, listen, we can no longer continue doing what we're doing because it's fornication. And she agreed. She said she actually was kind of happy because she said she'd been praying for me. And I was actually starting to convince her that there was no God. And the gravity of your words are, you don't realize it. We really don't. We don't step back and realize how much our words impact other people. And so I started making phone calls, calling people and apologizing. And I realized that you do have a responsibility. You are accountable in this world. And it makes no sense to have this world without laws, without rules. You can break them, but you're going to suffer the consequences. Everyone knows that there are judges and there are courts, attorneys. But they also know, just because you know it doesn't mean that it's gonna save you from any consequences. You know, if you do this, there's gonna be a consequence for that. And so, in the broad aspect of life, we don't apply that. We apply that to certain situations at work, job, school, whatever it is. But we don't apply it to what really matters, which is our eternal soul, our eternal life. There are just so many arguments as to why there is. Why God does exist. I hope I can be heard. It's just a seaplane flying overhead. So all these arguments, they're so sound, they're so righteous, and they're so logical and rational. But I feel that the reason we don't listen to it is that we don't want to. We don't want to give it a chance because we start off with this point where we've already made up our minds. And that's not being honest with ourselves. That's a huge disservice to ourselves. And if we truly are honest, we'll search for the truth. And the truth is difficult. Because when you're in the wrong, it's difficult, but when you're following the path of truth, it becomes easier and easier. So since that time, I stopped watching anything that's inappropriate. I used to have maybe 1,200 movies. I'm not talking about XXX movies or anything. They're just regular movies, and I lost my desire for all those movies. Just erased them all from my hard drive. My desire, my life has changed completely. I have actual purpose now in life. It's not just my former philosophy in life, which is it kind of made sense, but there's so many holes into it. But now I live for Christ. I live for Jesus. I don't desire anything that is not from His will, that doesn't please Him and doesn't promote Him. If it doesn't promote Him or please Him, I want nothing to do with it. And it becomes a challenge, because being someone that was so promiscuous, so free-willed, as the world would call it. You have to deprive yourself of these things, because at the end they're not good. I've tried them. I've lived them. And these desires are insatiable. They truly are. It's like the ego. The more you feed it, the more you realize, if you actually sit back and think about it, you realize that it'll never be satisfied. So our desires will never be satisfied. And that's absolutely true for every single thing, even for God. Your desire for God will never be satisfied. But that's the only good thing. Everything else just leads you into this quagmire. It leads you into hopelessness, because you can always change your desire for goodness, because you have no standard. If you have no standard, if you have no point of reference, if you're, like Ravi Zacharias says, if your feet are firmly planted in the sky, then anywhere you point is up. You decide today that behind you is up, and tomorrow that to your left is up. But like my pastor says, the quickest way to God is turn right and go straight. It's a beautiful thing. Awesome, man. And so now my purpose in life is to please God, is to follow His word. His word is not about religion. His word is about a personal relationship with Him, directly with Him. He wants us. He loves us. It's an amazing thing, this love that God has for us. I still don't understand it, and sometimes I get really emotional thinking about it. Because how do you love someone that openly hates you, despises you, and wishes for your death, and is actually killing you? And that's what Jesus did on the cross for us. He said, forgive them, for they know not what they do. He's talking about all of us. None of us are innocent, except for the children. Those that haven't reached the age of reasoning. But otherwise, we've all committed sins. We're all guilty. And we all deserve death, because it says so in the Bible. The wages or the penalty of sin is death, and we've all committed sin. And He loves us so much that He died for us. That's an amazing thing. It truly is. I don't think we're really capable of that, because we have this. I think we are capable of it, but it's so difficult, because we have this thing called, it's not really love what we have here in this world. What we have is an affinity. We like each other, and it's conditional. As long as you're faithful, then I'll be faithful to you. As long as you don't hurt me, then I'll love you. And God doesn't care about any of that. He knows we're going to hurt Him. He knows all of that. He knows we have. And He still loves us. And He died for us, knowing that we hate Him. And we wouldn't listen to Him. It's an amazing love. It really is. It's the only righteous and true love that there is. And that's what He wants for us. He wants us to practice that on each other. And if we practice that on each other, it means that we truly love Him, because that's His commandment. If I go back to thinking about how I used to be, my only objective in life was to be happy. And I tried not to harm others, but if it meant cheating someone slightly, then I was willing to do it. I didn't have an issue, because I was still getting to my objective. But God doesn't want that. God doesn't want the slightest lie. There is no lie that we can tell that is justifiable. There is no sin. And so that whole saying of the end justify the means, that's not the case. God's not about that. Jesus just wants us to follow him in the most truthful, pure way. We can't lie about it. We can't do anything, because then it's not real love. And it's unjustifiable. And so, if you're an atheist and you felt what I felt, which was this emptiness, this void, this desire for something greater than yourself, then I implore you to research. I'd love for you to convert, but just research. Just read the scriptures. Start with the New Testament. Start with the first 4 Gospels, and then work your way around it. And just look at it with a truly open heart and a truly non-biased mind, and just with the objective of finding truth. That's it. Just truth. And that's what God is about. It's just truth. And personally, I'd prefer that you just convert and just live off of faith. But it says so even in the Bible: prove all things and follow that which is good. I'm sure it's I'm kind of paraphrasing, but and so it says that it's not just blind faith. It really isn't. About the comments on this video, I don't care. If you comment, great, or you don't comment, or you comment in a negative sense, it's not an issue. There's supposed to be hate. God said it. He said they're gonna hate you because they hated me first. So I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried. I'm worried more about the comments, the personal comments of how the personal positive comments, because I think those are more dangerous, because then we start to separate ourselves from God and believe that we are good outside of God, and we're not. God is the fountainhead of good. That's where all goodness flows. So comment however, whatever you feel, honestly, however you feel, that's how you should comment. And so God bless. I used to make fun of people that said that, God bless you. But I sincerely mean it, God bless you. I wish you nothing but the best. I wish all our enemies the best. God doesn't want to see anyone left behind. Speaking of that, I feel this urgency right now. And I don't know if it's because I finally believe in the rapture and I finally understand what it means, but I feel like this urgency that God is en route. Not that he's getting ready, but that he's already en route. And any second, any moment, in the twinkling of an eye, we're going to be gone. And it makes total sense, because right before a kingdom or a nation is going to go into war with another kingdom or nation, the first thing they do is they call back their people, their ambassadors, their diplomats and whatnot. And so that's what God's doing. He's calling us back. Because if you read about the tribulation, you don't want to be in this earth. You really don't. You don't want to be in this earth. You don't want to live through that. Because there's no need. There truly is no need. One last thing I see. This message to me, I see it as if I found a treasure chest, and I'm just trying to share it with other people. But the problem with this treasure chest is when you open it up and you take any gold coins or whatever valuables are in there and you give it to someone else, they're not I'd say kind of like they disappear because you can't give it to anyone. All you can do is point to it and say, there it is. Well, how much can I take? How much do you want? It's an inexhaustible amount. It'll always replenish itself. It'll never be half empty. It'll never be half full. It'll always be full. And that's what the message of God is a treasure. And I wish everyone would take it. And now I realize, and I appreciate all the people that have come into my life and have talked to me about God. And I've always just scoffed at them and made fun of them. And now I understand them. So I understand that this takes patience. I understand that you can't force anyone. You can't force anyone to that treasure trove of gold, of that bounty. All you can do is just point at it. You're like, it's there for you, it's there for everyone. What do I have to do? You don't have to do anything. You just have to believe. That's it. It's not about works. The works come later on, but it's not because you're trying to gain influence or you're trying to gain favor with God. It's because you love God. That's it. That's plain and simple. Because you can do the works without loving God. But if you love God, you will do the works. It's just a byproduct of love. It truly is. And so, I wish you all the best. God bless you all. I never thought I'd say this, but I love you all. You have to. You have to. Every time I hear someone say that in these videos, I finally understand what they mean, because God wants us to love everyone. You're not supposed to like the sin. You're supposed to hate the sin. That's the behavior of the person. But the person itself is supposed to love that person. Because if that wasn't the case, I'd still be lost. And who knows where I'd be with those dark thoughts that I used to have. And so, that's my message.